Hey folks, welcome to Tyrdom. So, in many videos by now, I've mentioned the references with Huginn and Muninn, and I thought to myself, it's about high time I actually elaborate a bit on that and how it actually connects to us now in the modern world. So, for you who have seen depictions of Odin, you might have seen that meanwhile sitting in his throne with the one-eyed Allfather with his trusted spear, Gungnir, the spear that never misses the target. He often has a raven on each shoulder, and these ravens are named Huginn and Muninn. And in the popular belief today, and I want to say this is not 100% consensus throughout all scientists and historians, but it's a very popular belief that Huginn and Muninn represents thought and memory. And if we read about Odin and his fears, we can see that Odin was not afraid of war, conflict, or even death. He was afraid, however, of losing his ravens. So, in the myths, you can read that in morning, Odin sent his raven out into the world to gain knowledge and wisdom, and they would return in nighttime back to Odin. And one of his biggest fears was to lose Huginn and Muninn, and therefore his connection to the world and his source of knowledge and wisdom. And oftentimes Huginn and Muninn is depicted as, like I said, thought and memory. And Huginn was the one associated to thought. And Huginn is depicted as movement, speed, analysis, and reaction. Just like a thought, he was fleeting fast through the world. And it's also the capacity to move between subjects rapidly, jumping between ideas and how to adapt between ideas and how to improvise. And you could say that a society which is rich in Huginn produces opinions quickly, and it has an explanation for everything, oftentimes with rapid fire, and also a very fast reaction to things that encounter. But the thing with Huginn is that Huginn by itself does not represent or entail wisdom. This is where Muninn comes in. And Muninn, in the popular belief, is representing memory. And Muninn is the part that represents weight to an argument, for example, experience and continuity over time. And if the thought is fast and fleeting, memory, on the other hand, is slow, and it carries consequence over time. And it remembers what happened the last time you have a certain thought or you improvised or had an opinion. It can relay that back to memory. And compared to Huginn, which is reactive and fast and fleeting, Muninn is representing consequence over time, if that makes sense. And it's not at all about nostalgia, I would say. It's more of a orientation in the world. And without memory, thoughts easily get corrupted and arrogant. And a thought without memories believes that everything is original, or even that it's immune, because it's always progressive, contrary to Muninn, which is bound in memory and consequence, basically. Okay, so like I said, Odin feared losing his ravens, because then he would lose his insights to the world. And that's a half-truth, because in reality he was more afraid of losing Muninn than Huginn, because a thought can always be reformulated or rebuilt, but a memory once lost is forever gone. And a mind without memory repeats its mistakes confidently. And a culture without memory mistakes novelty for progress. Don't you agree? I think that if we look in the modern context, we live in an age that is basically overflowing with Huginn right now. Very fast, very fleeting, very short-sighted, and there's no lack of information or opinions. It's filled of analysis without inheritance, you can say. And Muninn has been neglected, and I think that's a thing that we need to talk about, because without Muninn, history tends to get flattened out, and experience is increasingly dismissed. And I feel that it's a problem, because tradition today is seen as some type of aesthetic feature rather than something to keep in mind while taking action, I would say. And if you don't think about memory, everything tends to feel novel. And novel is good, right? That's the mindset anyways. And because everything feels new today, nothing is really learned. And we learn from mistakes, but if we don't look at those mistakes, we learn nothing. So the animistic perspective of this is that memory was not abstract in that sense. It lived in the land, in the tools, and in the stories, like I so oftentimes talk about here in Tyrdom. And the other day I talked about the forest, how it remembers pressure from heavy snowfall from the year before, etc. And the nature has this Muninn feature built in. It's a logical step in order for it to progress and get stronger and more resilient. But I think that in our society today, when thought accelerates, in a sense, our judgment weakens. And when our judgment weakens, our responsibility also dissolves with it. And I can see that we make decisions more frequently without the depth of Muninn. And I think that we tend to see over and over in society today that we get surprised by the consequences for our actions, and that's because we don't have the memory dimension with us when we take action on these novel ideas that, if we look back into memory, would understand is not really novel. We have just forgotten about them. And like I said in the video about nature and pressure, it's the thing with pressure, it reveals structural weakness. And hollow structures tend to be the ones to fall first. And I think if we could use the archetypes of Huginn and Muninn in a modern context, I think that Huginn must be trained to slow down. That's the first thing. And Muninn must be invited back into the modern life, our memory. We must not forget, because I think it's detrimental to the development of humanity. And it's not about returning to the past. I mention this all the time. It's rather about restoring balance. And a thought must answer to memory. I guess that's the main point here. And speed must answer to weight. Easy as that. But the thing is that Odin didn't command his ravens. He depended on them. And the question is not whether Huginn still flies, because he does. The question is whether Muninn still finds his way home, rather. And I guess my finishing words would be something like, a mind without memory is powerful, but it's also very dangerous. Okay, folks. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you agree or not. Okay, folks. Have a lovely day. Talk to you later. Tyrdom out.